Did someone win the lottery? Mrs. Alvarez hugged Clara tightly. I'm going to miss you. I'll still visit. You'd better. Ethan climbed into the luxury car, staring wide-eyed at the leather seats. I've never been in a car like this. Clara smiled. Neither have I. As the convoy pulled away, she looked back at the little apartment that had been home since childhood. She wondered if she'd ever see it again. Blackwood Manor welcomed them with perfect politeness. Staff members lined the entrance. Welcome home, Mrs. Blackwood. The words sounded strange, almost unreal. A young housekeeper stepped forward. My name is Sophie. I'll show you to your rooms. Our rooms? Clara asked. Sophie hesitated. Mr. Blackwood requested separate bedrooms. Clara let out a quiet sigh of relief. At least the contract was exactly what he promised. Professional. Nothing more. Later that evening, Clara wandered the enormous mansion, still struggling to believe she lived there. She passed portraits of generations of Blackwoods. One portrait stopped her in her tracks. It showed Adrian standing beside his parents, and beside Victoria. All four of them smiled at the camera. The picture looked like the portrait of a perfect family. Until Clara noticed something odd. The frame had been cracked, not by age, by force, as though someone had once thrown it against a wall. Before she could look closer, a deep voice spoke behind her. You shouldn't be in this part of the house. She turned. It was Adrian, standing at the end of the hallway, without his cane, without anyone guiding him. He was facing her directly. Perfectly. For a split second, his gray eyes locked onto hers with unmistakable precision. Then, almost instantly, he tilted his head slightly and reached for the wall, as though he had suddenly remembered he was supposed to be blind. The performance lasted only a heartbeat, but Clara had seen enough. Her pulse raced. She kept her face calm and said nothing. If Adrian truly couldn't see, then she had imagined it. But if she hadn't, then her husband was hiding a secret so enormous that it could destroy everything. And Clara made a silent promise to herself. She would uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. Clara didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adrian standing in the hallway, without his cane, looking directly at her. Had she imagined it? Or had the world's most famous blind man made a mistake? Just before dawn, she finally drifted into a restless sleep. A gentle knock at the door woke her. Mrs. Blackwood? It was Sophie. Good morning. Breakfast will be served in 30 minutes. Clara glanced at the clock. 7 o'clock. She had barely slept an hour. I'll be down soon. The dining room was even larger than the apartment she had grown up in. A table stretched nearly the length of the room, decorated with fresh flowers and gleaming silverware. Adrian was already seated at one end. A newspaper rested beside him. He turned his head as Clara entered. Good morning. Good morning. She watched carefully as she took her seat. Would he reach for the newspaper? Would he accidentally reveal something? Instead, he calmly folded his hands. I hope you slept well. She almost laughed. I've had better nights. I expected as much. A servant poured coffee. Another placed breakfast before them. No one spoke. The silence felt strangely comfortable. Finally, Adrian broke it. At 11 this morning, you'll meet the household staff. At 1, we'll have our first photographs taken together. Clara frowned. Photographs? The press has been waiting years to see me with someone. They'll want proof that our marriage is real. She nodded. Anything else? His expression grew serious. Yes. There is one rule I expect you to follow. She looked up. The west wing of this house is permanently closed. You are never to enter it. Not alone. Not with anyone. Not for any reason. His tone wasn't angry. It was absolute. Clara swallowed. Why? I'll explain someday. There it is again, she said quietly. Someday. He didn't answer. An hour later, Sophie gave Clara a tour of the mansion. There are 43 rooms, a library, an indoor pool, a ballroom, a private chapel. And the gardens. Clara smiled. I think I'd get lost in 43 rooms. Sophie laughed. Everyone does. As they rounded a corner, Clara noticed a pair of heavy iron doors. Unlike the rest of the elegant house, these doors looked old, solid, almost like the entrance to a vault. 2 security guards stood outside. Neither smiled. The West Wing? Clara asked. Sophie immediately looked uncomfortable. Yes. What is in there? I don't know. You've never been inside? No one has. Except Mr. Blackwood. And Mr. Ashcroft. The housekeeper quickly changed the subject. The rose garden is beautiful this time of year. But Clara barely heard another word. That afternoon, photographers arrived from every major newspaper and magazine. Luxury cars lined the driveway. Camera flashes lit up the front lawn. Mr. Blackwood, look this way. Congratulations on your marriage. Mrs. Blackwood, how did you two meet? The questions came so quickly that Clara couldn't answer a single one. Adrian simply smiled politely. My wife and I appreciate your warm wishes. Nothing more, nothing less. He handled every question perfectly. Almost too perfectly. Then one photographer shouted, Mr. Blackwood, can you tell us how it feels to find love after losing your sight? The entire crowd fell silent. Adrian paused. For just a fraction of a second, pain crossed his face. Then he smiled again. It reminded me that some things are still worth seeing. The crowd applauded. Clara looked at him in surprise. It was a beautiful answer, yet somehow, it sounded as though it carried another meaning. As the photographers packed their equipment, Clara wandered toward the gardens. She needed fresh air. Away from cameras, away from pretending. She found a quiet stone bench beneath a large oak tree. For the first time all day, she relaxed, until she heard a familiar voice. Beautiful performance. Clara turned sharply. Victoria Davenport stood behind her. She wasn't supposed to be on the property. What are you doing here? Victoria smiled. You should ask why Adrian allowed me in. I don't understand. You will. Victoria sat beside her without invitation. Tell me, has he told you how he became blind? No. Has he told you why his parents died? No. Has he told you about his younger brother? Clara blinked. Younger brother? Victoria studied her carefully. So, he doesn't trust you yet. Clara's heart pounded. I've never heard anyone mention a brother. Exactly. Victoria stood. There are many things buried inside Blackwood Manor. Some are memories. Some are people. And some, she leaned closer, should never have survived. Before Clara could ask another question, Victoria walked away, leaving behind more questions than answers. That evening, Clara couldn't stop thinking about what Victoria had said. A younger brother. Why had no one ever mentioned him? She decided to visit the library. If the Blackwood family had such a long history, perhaps there would be old newspapers or family records. The library was silent. Dust floated through beams of moonlight. She searched shelves for nearly 20 minutes before finding a collection of old newspapers. One headline caught her eye. Blackwood family tragedy claims 2 lives. She opened the brittle paper. The article described the accident. Adrian, his parents, the crash. Then she reached the list of surviving family members. Her eyes widened. There it was. One sentence. One name. Adrian Blackwood and his younger brother, Daniel Blackwood, were believed to have survived the collision. Clara frowned. Believed? She turned the page. The rest of the article had been carefully cut out. Not torn. Cut. Someone had deliberately removed the ending. Every copy in the folder was the same. The final page was missing. Someone didn't want anyone to know what happened next. Just then, a floorboard creaked behind her. Clara spun around. The library was empty, or so she thought. A shadow slipped silently between the bookshelves. Someone else was in the room, watching her. And when Clara rushed toward the aisle, she found only one thing lying on the wooden floor: a small silver key. Attached to it was a faded paper tag with 3 handwritten words: West Wing, Room 17. Clara stared at the key. Her breathing became shallow. Someone had left it for her. But who? And why? Clara stared at the small silver key resting in her palm. It was old. Far older than the mansion's polished locks and gleaming hallways. The metal was worn smooth around the edges, as though it had been used countless times before being forgotten or hidden. Attached to it was a faded paper tag: West Wing, Room 17. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Someone had wanted her to find it. But who? She looked around the library once more. Hello? Only silence answered. The mysterious figure had disappeared. Clara slipped the key into her pocket. She knew she should hand it to Adrian, or Ashcroft, or at least tell someone. Instead, she walked back to her room with 1,000 questions racing through her mind. Whoever left the key had done so deliberately, and they had done it knowing she would recognize the words West Wing. She closed her bedroom door behind her, then locked it. For the first time since arriving at Blackwood Manor, she felt as though someone was watching her every move. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Mrs. Blackwood. It was Sophie. Mr. Blackwood would like you to join him for dinner. I'll be there. Before leaving, Clara hid the key inside an old jewelry box at the bottom of a drawer. She wasn't ready for anyone else to know she had it. Dinner was quieter than breakfast. A storm rumbled outside, and flashes of lightning illuminated the enormous dining room. Adrian sat across from her, unusually thoughtful. You seem distracted, he observed. So do you. A faint smile crossed his face. Perhaps we're rubbing off on each other. Clara hesitated. Can I ask you something? You usually do. Did you have a younger brother? The smile disappeared. For several long seconds, Adrian didn't move. Even the servants seemed to stop breathing. Finally, he dismissed them with a slight wave of his hand. You may leave us. The doors closed. Now they were alone. Who told you about Daniel? No one. I found an old newspaper. His expression darkened. You've been searching through my family's history. I wasn't trying to invade your privacy. She lowered her voice. There are too many missing pieces. Adrian slowly stood and walked toward the fireplace. Again, he moved with remarkable confidence. Not once did he hesitate. My brother was 10 years old. Clara listened carefully. He loved music. He hated vegetables. And he laughed louder than anyone I've ever known. His voice softened. The night of the accident, he disappeared. Disappeared? The police searched for weeks. They never found his body. Clara frowned. So no one knows what happened to him? No, not officially. The last 2 words lingered in the air. Do you think he's alive? Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he stared into the flames. I've spent 5 years asking myself that same question. Later that night, rain battered the windows. The mansion had fallen silent. Clara lay awake, unable to stop thinking about Daniel. A missing child, a sealed West Wing, a mysterious key. None of it made sense. Finally, she climbed out of bed. I'll just look, she whispered to herself. No one has to know. She retrieved the key from the drawer, pulled on a sweater, and quietly slipped into the hallway. The mansion looked completely different at night. The cheerful warmth of the day had vanished. Moonlight stretched long shadows across the polished floors. Every creak echoed through the empty halls. Clara carefully made her way toward the forbidden wing. As she approached the iron doors, she noticed something strange. The guards were gone. Their chairs sat empty. The hallway was deserted. That's odd. She reached the doors. One was slightly open, just enough for someone to slip through. Had someone forgotten to lock it? Or had someone left it open on purpose? Taking a deep breath, Clara stepped inside. The air felt colder immediately. Dust covered the floor. Sheets draped over old furniture like ghosts. Portraits lined the walls, their faces hidden beneath layers of white cloth. The silence was overwhelming. She checked the key tag again. Room 17. Each door bore a brass number. 9, 11, 13, 15. Her heartbeat quickened. Then, 17. The door stood at the very end of the corridor. Unlike the others, it looked untouched. No dust covered its polished handle. Someone had been using it. Recently. Hands trembling, Clara slid the key into the lock. Click. The door slowly swung open. The room was nothing like she expected. It wasn't a storage room, or an abandoned bedroom. It was a child's room. Toy soldiers stood neatly on a shelf. A small wooden train rested on the floor. Books about pirates and astronauts filled a bookcase. A faded blue blanket still covered the little bed. It looked as though someone had walked out and never returned. Clara stepped farther inside. On the desk sat a framed photograph. She picked it up. It showed Adrian, smiling broadly, with a little boy sitting on his shoulders. Daniel. The resemblance was unmistakable. They looked happy, like brothers who adored each other. Clara gently placed the picture back. Then she noticed something else. The dust around the photograph had been disturbed. Someone had touched it recently. Very recently. A faint sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Clara's pulse raced. Someone was outside the room. She quickly turned off the bedside lamp she had accidentally brushed against and hid behind the bedroom door. The footsteps stopped. The door creaked open a little wider. A figure entered. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Clara held her breath. Moonlight fell across the man's face. It was Adrian. Without his cane. Without hesitation. Without the uncertain movements of a blind man. He walked directly to the photograph, picked it up, ran his thumb gently across Daniel's smiling face. Then, in a voice filled with grief, he whispered, "I'm so sorry. I still haven't found you." A tear rolled down his cheek. For the first time since Clara met him, the confident billionaire disappeared. In his place stood nothing more than a heartbroken older brother. Clara felt a wave of sympathy. But before she could step out, Adrian suddenly stopped. His expression changed. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head toward the exact spot where Clara was hiding. His gray eyes locked onto the darkness behind the door, and in a calm, unmistakable voice he said, "You can come out now, Clara." Her heart nearly stopped. There was no way, no possible way. A blind man should have known she was there. Clara's heart pounded so loudly she was certain Adrian could hear it. She remained perfectly still behind the bedroom door. Perhaps he was guessing. Perhaps he had heard her breathing. Perhaps... "Clara." His voice was calm. "You've been holding your breath for nearly 20 seconds. There isn't much point in hiding anymore." Slowly, she stepped out from behind the door. The moonlight revealed the shock on her face. Adrian didn't flinch. He simply looked at her. Not past her. Not toward the sound of her footsteps. At her. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, Clara broke the silence. "You can see." Adrian closed his eyes. "I was hoping you'd discover that a little later." "So it's true." "Yes." The single word echoed through the quiet room. Every newspaper headline, every television interview, every public appearance, every sympathy campaign, all of it. A lie. Clara took a step backward. "You lied to the entire world." "I did." "You lied to me." "I did." "You let me believe you were blind." "I had no choice." She laughed bitterly. "No choice? You've had 5 years to tell the truth, and you chose deception." Adrian looked down at the photograph of Daniel. "When I woke up after the crash, I really was blind." Clara said nothing. "The doctors told me my eyesight would probably never return. It took nearly 8 months before I could see again." She stared at him. "You regained your sight?" He nodded. But I told no one. Not even the doctors? They knew. They wanted to announce my recovery. So why didn't they? Because someone tried to kill me. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Clara frowned. What are you talking about? Adrian walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass. The crash wasn't an accident. I've known that for years. My brakes were cut. My parents died. My brother vanished. And I survived. He turned to face her. The moment people believed I was blind. They stopped fearing me. They spoke freely around me. They stole from my company. They betrayed each other. They confessed things they never would have confessed if they thought I could see. You used your blindness to investigate them. Exactly. Clara struggled to process everything. So you've been pretending. Every single day. For 5 years. He nodded. It became my greatest protection. And my greatest prison. Clara folded her arms. If you don't trust anyone, why marry me? Adrian smiled faintly. Because I finally found someone I wanted to trust. She looked away. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you worked double shifts while your friends enjoyed weekends. I know you sold your mother's wedding ring to pay Ethan's medical bills. I know you skipped meals so he could eat. I know you returned a wallet containing $15,000 instead of keeping it. Clara blinked. How do you know that? I hired investigators. She sighed. That still sounds unsettling. It probably is. But it also saved my life. A sudden knock echoed through the room. 3 sharp knocks. Adrian's expression changed instantly. Back behind the door. What? Now. Without waiting for an explanation, Clara obeyed. The bedroom door opened. Ashcroft entered. He looked unusually tense. Sir, what is it? Ashcroft lowered his voice. Someone broke into your office. Adrian frowned. What was taken? Nothing. That's impossible. Not quite. Ashcroft hesitated. The safe was opened. But whoever entered left empty-handed. Adrian's eyes narrowed. They weren't looking for money. No. They were searching for something specific. Clara listened carefully from her hiding place. Ashcroft continued. We checked the security cameras. And? The footage between 10 and 11 o'clock was erased. Adrian's jaw tightened. They're getting bolder. There is one more thing. Ashcroft handed him a sealed envelope. It was left on your desk. Adrian opened it. Inside was a single playing card, the Queen of Hearts. Across it, written in black ink, were 4 chilling words. I know you see. For the first time since Clara met him, fear crossed Adrian's face. Someone else knew. Someone besides Clara. Someone who had been close enough to enter his office, close enough to bypass the security system, close enough to leave a message. The game had changed. After Ashcroft left, Adrian locked the bedroom door. We don't have much time. Clara looked at the playing card. Who sent it? I don't know. But they want me to know something. What? That they're watching. He walked to a bookshelf and pressed against a carved wooden panel. A hidden compartment slid open. Inside was a leather folder, several photographs, a handgun, and dozens of documents. Clara's eyes widened. What is all this? My investigation. He handed her one photograph. It showed Victoria entering a warehouse late at night. Another showed a member of Blackwood's board secretly meeting with a politician. Another showed a masked man carrying a child. The child's face was blurred. But the jacket, the little blue jacket, matched the one hanging in Daniel's bedroom. Clara looked up. You think that's your brother? I know it is. Her voice trembled. Then Daniel didn't die. Adrian nodded slowly.